Hello, today I'm going to present two different types of suspensions with all 8 components. Also, I will define some concepts about suspension and illustrate them with some examples.
The first type of suspension is the McPherson strut. As we can see in the draw, this type of suspension only has one control arm, the lower one. It provides lateral and longitudinal location of the wheel. It is indicated with the red arrow. Also, it is connected to the red part that is the hub carrier. It connects the wheel with the suspension. It is indicated with the blue arrow. We also have the tubular housing containing shock absorber with the coil spring on the top. These two elements are designed to absorb and damp impulse, and they are indicated with the black arrow. The little blue tube is the track rod that gives direction to the wheel. It is indicated with the yellow arrow. The real difference between two configurations is that this one only has one control arm and the shock spring is connected directly to the body of the car. The second configuration is called SLA. That means short long arms. In this type of suspension, we find two control arms and the spring is in the center of those arms. As we can see in the image, the upper arm is shorter than the lower. They give support to the wheels and tires. Also, they allow lateral movements of the wheel. The yellow part is the knuckle. It connects the control arms to the tire. The blue part is the spring with the shock absorber. Their function is to absorb and damp shock impulses. The green part is the stabilizer bar. It gives stabilization to the car. Finally, we have the orange part. It connects the stabilizer bar with the control arms. At the beginning, the two control arms were equal in length, but the creator realized that with this configuration, the camber were too dangerous. So he changed the upper arm and makes it shorter in order to give stabilization. The image shows that when both arms were the same length, the car has positive camber in the right wheel and negative camber in the other one. So if you have small contact to the road in the right wheel, it can produce an accident. In the other hand, he realized that if you have the upper control arm shorter, you counteract the previous effect by having negative camber in the right wheel and positive camber in the left one. Now that you know both configurations, I can compare them by using some suspension terms. The first one is the spring rate. This rate only depends on the spring material and is defined as the amount of weight required to deflect a spring 1 inch. The lower the spring rate, the softer the spring. There is no difference in the spring rate on both configurations because this concept doesn't depend on external factors, so we can have the same spring rate for the two types of suspensions. If we take off only the spring from the suspension and we compress it 1 inch, we obtain the spring rate. The second concept is the suspension rate or wheel rate, called like this by some authors. This term is the change of wheel load at the center of the tire contact per unit vertical displacement of the spring mass relative at a specified load. It is almost like the spring rate, but here we compress the spring when it's mounted to the whole suspension, as we appreciate in both images. The third concept that I will define is the tire rate, which is easy to define. The tire rate is the distance from the center of the wheel to the point of contact with the road. When you put some load into the vehicle, you can see how this distance is reduced. Let's look at the image. The distance between the center of the tire to the road is 25 centimeters, but when we apply a heavy load, you can see how this distance is reduced until 23 centimeters. Finally, we define the ride rate as the change of the wheel load at the center of the tire contact per unit vertical displacement of the sprung mass relative to the ground at the specific load. In general terms, it means how low the car will get depending on the forces you apply. We see in the image that the distance from the car to the ground is about 65 centimeters, and when we apply some loads, the distance is reduced until 60 centimeters. Now I am going to analyze the acting forces in both configurations. The McPherson suspension only involves two forces. The blue arrow represents the force caused by the weight of the car, and the red arrow represents the movement of the car. As we see in the image, both forces are joined to the hub. The SLA configuration has many forces involved. The three red arrows represent the upper control arm, and the three yellow ones represent the lower arm. They are joined by the knuckle, and also it represents the force between both arms. In the image, this force is the green arrow. This type of suspension gives more support to the car by dividing the loads into the two arms. Otherwise, in McPherson, there is only one arm. Finally, I want to show you both configurations in real life, so I found two videos explaining the two different types of suspension. The first one is the McPherson strut configurations.
So here we have the basic McPherson strut suspension setup. You can see the spring shock combination, which is mounted to the body of the car, and here at the top of the hub there is a steering line that comes in here, and here's the lower control arm down at the bottom.
The second video is the SLA configuration.
So here we have our double wishbone suspension or double A arm, and you can see the controlling arm here at the top, and it's obviously a little bit smaller than this controlling arm here at the bottom. And then you've got your shock absorber here connecting with the lower control arm, and that's all connected to the outside tire. The tire's not on here, we just got the disc brake. But there's a basic setup of a double A arm or double wishbone suspension.
Thank you for watching this video.